You are looking at a split-screen reality today, and it is tearing household budgets apart.
It really is.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It's Saturday, February 28, 2026. And if you're holding a student loan right now, you are probably feeling like you're living in two completely different worlds.
Yeah, it's a chaotic moment.
Very.
Because on one side of the screen, you've got settlement checks literally hitting mailboxes, actual cash.
Right.
And you have a government rushing to fix what could be a massive tax nightmare.
On the other side.
Exactly. On the other side, delinquency rates are just hitting historic highs. Credit scores are in absolute free fall.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are looking at three massive storylines that are colliding right now. You've got a confusing legal battle in a Missouri courtroom. You have financial fallout that is crushing people in places like Mississippi.
Yep.
And this frantic attempt to beat a deadline that could bankrupt thousands of people.
Yep.
So our goal today is to connect these dots for you.
Right, because we need to explain how, say, a judge's ruling on a Tuesday directly impacts your ability to buy a car on a Wednesday.
Exactly.
And we really have to break down why December 31st, 2025 was such a terrifying date on the calendar.
So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's start with the bad news.
Okay.
Because when I was looking through the data from the Century Foundation, my jaw actually hit the floor.
The numbers are staggering.
We're seeing a delinquency surge that we haven't seen in decades.
Decades, yeah. So the Century Foundation found that delinquency rates surged to nearly 25% in the first 3 quarters of 2025.
Wow.
Now, to put that in perspective, back in 2019, before the pandemic changed everything, that number was around 9%.
So it almost tripled.
Nearly tripled. We're talking about roughly 7.9 million borrowers entering delinquency.
Almost 8 million people.
Almost 8 million people who looked at their monthly budget and just couldn't pay or decided they wouldn't.
But why right now? I mean, obviously, inflation is the thing. Groceries are expensive. We all know that.
Yeah.
But why is student debt specifically falling off a cliff at this exact moment?
Well, it's this perfect storm.
Yeah.
First, you have the end of those pandemic-era protections. For over 3 years, nobody had to pay.
Right, the moratorium.
Yeah, the muscle memory of paying that bill every month just faded away. But the bigger issue, the real catalyst, was the policy freeze.
You mean all the litigation chaos with the Department of Education?
Precisely. Because of all the lawsuits over the Savvy plan, the Department of Ed effectively suspended access to income-driven repayment applications.
Oh, wow.
So imagine you're a borrower, you lose your job. Normally, you'd apply for an IDR plan to lower your payment, right?
Right, to protect yourself.
But in 2025, you couldn't. They locked the doors, people were stuck in plans they couldn't afford and couldn't switch to cheaper ones.
So they just miss a payment.
And then they miss another. And this is where the real-world damage hits. It's not just a late fee. We are looking at a mass casualty event for credit scores.
Which impacts everything.
Exactly. An estimated 2 million borrowers saw their credit scores drop by 100 points or more. The average fall was from a 680 down to a 580.
580. I mean, let's be real about what that means for you. A 580 is a denied stamp on an apartment lease.
Yeah.
That's paying, what, 14% interest on a used car instead of 6%. You are basically locked out of the middle-class economy.
You are. And the tragic part is that this isn't spread evenly. The southern states are getting absolutely hammered. Louisiana and Mississippi are seeing delinquency rates near 40%.
40%.
They're 40%. That is almost half the borrower population in those states. That's a systemic collapse.
It is, and the racial disparity is stark, too. Over 48% of black borrowers are currently delinquent.
Nearly half.
Yeah, it's a localized depression driven entirely by this debt.
Which just highlights how messy this return to repayment has been. It's like trying to restart a cold engine and just blowing a gasket.
Right.
But speaking of mechanics and engines, let's talk about the Savvy plan. Because we got breaking news yesterday, February 27th, from a federal judge. Yes, U.S. District Judge John Ross. He dismissed the lawsuit led by Missouri that was challenging the SEV plan.
Okay, so if I'm listening to this, I'm probably thinking, great, lawsuit dismissed, the Savvy plan is safe, I'm good.
Right, but it is not that simple.
I figured.
We need to be very careful here. Judge Ross didn't dismiss the case because the Savvy plan is legally bulletproof. He dismissed it because the Department of Education, which is now under the Trump administration, wasn't actively defending the plan anymore.
Wait, walk me through that. Because the Trump administration stopped fighting for it, the judge said, there's no case.
Basically, yes. The judge ruled there was no live case because the government wasn't arguing back. But here is the wild legal twist.
Okay.
The Trump administration actually tried to settle with Missouri to end the SAVE plan immediately. They went to the court and said, hey, we agree with the plaintiffs. Let's just kill the program today.
They tried to take a shortcut.
Exactly. And the judge said no. He refused to let them bypass the law with a settlement. He basically said, you have to go through the formal new rulemaking process to repeal it legally.
New rulemaking process.
Yeah.
Which sounds like boring bureaucratic jargon, but it dictates the timeline.
It dictates everything. Rulemaking takes months, sometimes years. You need public comment periods, reviews. It's a whole thing.
Right.
The administration wants to phase out the SAVE program by July 1st, 2028.
So for the 7 million people currently enrolled in SAVE, what kind of plan are they in?
It's a zombie plan.
The zombie plan.
Yeah, it's walking around. It's technically alive, but it has an expiration date stamped on it. And in the meantime, borrowers have been in forbearance, but interest has been accruing since August.
So your balance is going up while lawyers argue over when to hold the funeral for the program.
Precisely.
That is unbelievably frustrating.
Huh.
But here is where the plot really thickens. Because while the SAVE plan is on this slow road to nowhere, the Trump administration made a massive, surprising move on other forgiveness programs.
This is the nuance people are missing. Fox Business reported that the Trump administration reached a court-supervised deal with the American Federation of Teachers, the AFT.
To do what exactly?
To speed up debt cancellation for eligible borrowers in established programs. Things like public service loan forgiveness, PSLF, and traditional income-driven repayment. And the key is they agreed to process these before December 31st, 2025.
Okay, why that specific date? Why the race against the clock?
To avoid the tax bomb.
The tax bomb. It sounds like an action movie, but it's tax code. Break this down for us. Why is 2026 so different from 2025?
Because of a change in federal tax law. During the pandemic, the American Rescue Plan said that any canceled student debt was tax-free. But that provision expires at the end of 2025.
Oh, so starting in 2026.
It reverts to the old rules. Under the old rules, canceled debt is treated as taxable income by the IRS.
So if you're a teacher making, say, 60 grand a year, you finally get your $50,000 in loans forgiven.
The IRS acts like you made $110,000 that year.
And you suddenly owe a massive tax bill.
You could owe $15,000 or $20,000 to the IRS. Due immediately.
That is a catastrophe. You trade a monthly student loan payment for a tax bill that bankrupts you?
Exactly. So the administration is rushing to clear the backlog before that law changes. And the political framing is really interesting here.
How so?
They aren't saying we love loan forgiveness. They are framing this purely as a rule of law issue. They told Fox Business they are separating the illegal mass forgiveness of the previous administration from the lawful loan discharges that Congress actually passed.
That is a crucial distinction. They're basically saying, we are clearing out the clog caused by illegal programs so we can process the people who actually followed the rules for a decade.
Right. They are positioning themselves as the adults cleaning up the mess, ensuring people who paid for decades don't get hit with a tax penalty just because the government was too slow to process their paperwork.
It makes sense. If you signed a contract to serve 10 years for forgiveness, the government should honor it without a surprise tax bill. Let's pivot slightly from the government to the private sector, because the corporate loan servicers are a huge part of this ecosystem. And Navient is back in the headlines.
Navient just reached a $120 million settlement with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And those checks are in the mail right now.
This is about the steering problem, right? We hear that term a lot. What does steering actually look like for a borrower calling customer service?
It's insidious because it's invisible to you on the phone. Back in 2017, if you called Navient because you couldn't afford your payment, you wanted help. But Navient allegedly incentivized their reps to get you off the phone as fast as possible.
Because time is money for a call center.
Right. Processing an income-driven repayment application takes 20, maybe 30 minutes of verifying income and explaining terms. But putting you in forbearance, that takes 2 minutes.
They just pause it.
Yeah, they say, well, pause your payments. Have a nice day.
So the rep gets a good metric for a short call. The borrower thinks they got a break. But what happens to the loan itself during that forbearance?
It explodes. Interest keeps piling up. The data shows balances ballooning by nearly $3,000 a year just in interest.
Wow.
In 2017, the average balance for these steered borrowers was $43,000, a few years in forbearance, and they owe massively more than they started with.
And now these settlement checks are going out. Who gets them and how much are they?
Borrowers steered into forbearance by Navient in 2017 or earlier. The checks range from a few $100s up to about $2,000.
$2,000. Does that even come close to fixing a loan balance that grew by 10 grand because of their bad advice?
Not even close. It's a drop in the bucket. And the corporate reality makes it even starker. While Navient is paying the settlement, they also just declared a 16-cent per share quarterly dividend.
So they're doing fine.
Oh, they're doing great. They're targeting 60% growth in loan origination by 2026.
It's just the cost of doing business.
They are paying restitution for past practices while projecting massive strength to their investors.
Paying a speeding ticket while stepping on the gas. When you zoom out and look at this entire picture, the 25% delinquency, the legal chaos, the corporate maneuvering, it leads to a bigger existential question. Is a 4-year degree even worth the risk anymore?
That is the exact question families are asking right now. And the employment data reflects it. 64% of workers who changed jobs between 2022 and 2024 actually changed occupations entirely.
They completely pivoted. Why?
A lot of it comes down to seeking fulfilling work, but also risk management. If you have $50,000 in debt, you need immediate return on investment. You can't take a low-paying entry-level job.
Right.
And then you add the AI factor. Families are seriously reassessing the value of the degree because artificial intelligence is making certain white-collar career paths obsolete, or at least highly risky.
So you're an 18-year-old looking at taking out massive loans for a desk job, and you have to wonder if an AI will be doing that job by the time you graduate.
Right. So people are pivoting rapidly. They are looking at trades or roles AI can't touch, trying to survive without taking on debt that might ruin them.
Yeah.
The tension is incredibly high. We have high debt for degrees that are suddenly less valuable.
It feels like the old social contract of go to college for security is broken.
Completely broken.
So let's recap this volatile horizon we're looking at.
Well, we have litigation that is keeping the SAVE plan barely alive as a zombie, though it's marked for death in 2028.
Yep.
We have settlements paying out for corporate steering, but the money doesn't cover the damage. And we have that surprise deal between the Trump administration and the teachers union to defuse the 2026 tax bomb.
But underneath all of that is the delinquency surge. 25% nationally, 40% in places like Mississippi.
And that leads to the final provocative thought I want to leave you with today.
Let's hear it.
We saw the government act quickly on the tax bomb because the consequences of inaction were too severe, right? They moved fast to fix the tax cut deadline. But if delinquency is hitting 40% in some regions, are we witnessing the end of the current student loan model entirely?
What do you mean, like the end of federal lending?
Yeah. Is the system finally too broken to fix with just another repayment plan? If half the people in certain states can't pay back the government, the math stops working. It makes you wonder if policy decisions are quietly shifting toward dismantling the lending system as we know it, simply because it cannot sustain itself anymore.
That is a huge thought to chew on. Are we just watching the slow motion end of federal student loans?
It's entirely possible.
Well, while we wait to see if the whole system collapses, you need to protect yourself today. Given all these legal changes, do not wait. Check your specific loan status immediately.
Yes. Especially if you are in a program like PSLF. Make sure your paperwork is filed so you don't get caught on that 2026 tax bomb.
Great advice. Thank you for walking us through this chaotic split-screen reality, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay on top of your accounts, and we will catch you next time.